Okay, so today we'll talk about interpersonal oral language skills and literacy development, and this ties in with the reading, with the discussion session that we had on Monday. So again, there will be some multiliteracies talk involved in this, some terminology. This should all at least look familiar to those of you who have been coming here throughout the semester. For the new faces, it may or may not be familiar, but that's okay because we can all learn from each other. Okay, I'm going to start with a question. And the question will immediately look familiar to Vaini, to the rest of you, not as much probably. So the question is with two questions really. What is your textbook's approach to interpersonal communications? Question number one. And question number two, what kinds of interpersonal speaking tasks are students asked to carry out? Anyone?
Well, interpersonal communication, that doesn't have anything to do with communicative approach.
It may have the other way. Communicative approach may facilitate and does facilitate interpersonal communication.
Okay. Actually, not all of our textbooks have interpersonal communication, but one of them has. And what kinds of interpersonal?
Okay, I am reading Activities to Teach Interpersonal. Working in small groups on a project.
Okay, perfect. Working in small groups.
We
on a
do
project.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Conducting interviews.
Mm-hmm.
When there are questions about themselves, like we have about a text or a video, and then you ask, and what about you? What's your experience related with this topic?
So direct questions.
Questions, no?
And who's asking the questions?
The book,
The book or the instructor?
or sometimes in the book you have, and what about you? Ask your partner and bring it to the class.
So it's students asking their partners, or is the instructors asking students, or is it the
Both,
book asking
the three things.
the three things?
I think in particular for Portuguese, we don't have, I think the second question asks about tasks, as in the task-based approach.
That good point. We could talk about the task-based approach here, but we can just talk about tasks as a synonym for activities.
Yeah.
As a synonym for activities.
Can I continue? There are also role-playing. Role-playing
Okay.
Role plays.
is interpersonal and team building exercises.
Mm-hmm.
I think we do this, but sometimes we have to incorporate them. No, they are not all in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the teacher who says, and what about you? And brings this topic and say, discuss this in pairs. Or ask your family.
Just like do it in Spanish. How does it happen in Swahili?
It's very weak. The textbook is very, very weak. The communication are based, give you a role playing, two people, and then you give you a little talk here and there. And then there's the written part of it, but the written part is really you're responding to what the questions are being asked from the reading. And then the interpersonal communications are there, but the topics that are dealing with this interpersonal communication are very, very dull, and they're not really personally knowing the person, or a person being able to express things that they really like, want to do, and so on. So they're very weak on the content basis, which I have to make it up myself. Then I give them this.
So how do you usually supplement it? What do you do?
I do my conversations, and then I ask them to develop conversations, and then I ask them to role play, and then so everybody brings in something to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about Dutch?
The same. The book would have role play activities or things like that to facilitate speaking.
That also need to be supplemented with
Oh, yeah.
some original info. Here you go. This is the sign-in sheet. 4K
Because sometimes a couple says the topics are not a bit boring to students, right?
I mean, the text, the whole text, it is 30 lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Never ask about, oh, do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a
Right,
girlfriend?
exactly, yeah.
Things that this guy is
what I
really.
commented yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, when was how?
But things
Why
that
did you
are
break up with
interesting.
your boyfriend?
This is
what
what I
kind
did
of?
yesterday. Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I,
But it's true. Normally it's not in the books. no,
It's
like
not
really-
personal. It's not, I would look at it as being average communication of the day, but not really personal.
sometimes I think I'm super, I just did that one yesterday because they're learning the sing all. So no, the reciprocal verbs. So in that case, so how did you both meet? And so I always do it about a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you usually, or do you consider connecting it to any kind of cultural content, since we are talking about multiliteracies and we are talking about literacy in general, and so texts as such, which is, again, not just written text, but also multiple forms and modalities of text. Is this something that you also connect to that, or do you, in these kinds of activities, do you ask your students to simulate as though, you know, they were talking to their boyfriend or girlfriend as if they were American, or do you also point out the differences between like how it works in the United States, how it works in Brazil?
No, in that case, for me, it's like the one I did yesterday is really personal, as if they were Americans. I do one on family when they learn about the family. In that case, they learn about particular famous Brazilian family. And so they read, and there's a song that this songwriter wrote about the birth of his child, his second child. And so in the end, the task is that one of them is going to be the son of the songwriter, and the other one is going to be a journalist who's interviewing this guy who now is 29 years old. So that's the way I do it.
So the first question is pretty much, I think pretty much covered. Is your textbook approach sufficient to develop your students' speaking abilities? The answers vary here, but I think the overwhelming consensus is that no. It's lacking, maybe except for Spanish, although even there there's some room for improvement, right? Do you guys use the same textbook?
No, I'm not using
No.
their.
For instance,
No, I am using a new approach that one of the
Because you're not
lecturers.
teaching any of the courses in
No.
the...
No,
With
this
a
semester
book.
she's using.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I have more time.
So those are for the more commonly taught languages. What about Italian? Are the activities, the oral communication activities in your textbook also sufficient for? No. Okay. Now, moving in the direction of multiliteracies, do you think that the multiliteracies framework might help make it more appropriate? And there's no right or wrong answer to this question. It may as well be that, you know, multiliteracies is perhaps not the best approach, not the best framework for your particular level. Thoughts?
I think in many ways we are already using this. We're using all different kinds of texts that bring, it was clear that multiliteracies means not only written text, but it can be a song, or it can be a film, or it can be written text, or it can be an actual book, or it can be a story or a newspaper. So I think we all are using all of those, especially because we know there are these new approaches to teaching language, and so in our books don't provide activities for that. So we are using them.
I don't know about you guys, but to me, it seems that when it comes to the multiliteracy approach, it is most pronounced and most visible when it comes to the prompts for the activities. In other words, since we are considering oral activities that need to be structured in a certain way, if we want to use a multiliteracy framework, then of course we're going to be using certain texts, and then the prompt for the activity will pretty much be the only space where we can actually apply multiliteracies, right? And by the prompt, it could be like role playing, where there's a dialogue that students can use as a template, which has its disadvantages because other times we just repeat it, right? Or it could be a story, a video, poem.
Mhm.
Do you have your students talk about poems?
Oh, all the time.
All the time.
That's what we do in the whole semester.
How does it normally work? Because this is not, I mean, especially in the light of the upcoming poetry festival, which the deadline is tomorrow. This is not a very commonly used medium or prompt for
Well,
discussions.
the thing that I like about poems, specifically for speaking, is that because it's based on a short text, and it is based on something that everyone has an opinion about. Either you like or you don't like, or you read something in it and the other person doesn't read it in it. We
So
don't know what the poet
available
had in mind.
designs,
Yes,
essentially.
so no one knows what the poet actually. So my opinion is, or my interpretation is not better than theirs, which makes the for a very level playing field. And when we talk about it, things come out that I would never have thought about. So, and I think students like talking about it once they get over the shyness about talking about poetry, and that it's really no, it's not like a higher art form that we don't need to dare to touch. Then you can do there's so much speaking that you can do about with poetry. For me, it works very well, and now they're trained in doing it. They've been doing it all the time.
And I think poetry is the kind of genre of text that lends itself particularly well to the multiliteracy framework and oral communication practice in particular.
An artistic image, so if you take a painting, so it's similar to the poem, maybe it's not written, so you can give different interpretations, so you can enter in the painter's mind, or you can give interpretation, so it's...
Do we remember what's this process of interpreting and figuring out what different things mean in a poem or in a painting and doing that in the target language? What do we call it in terms of multiliteracies?
Can you repeat that?
So the interpretation process, right, where you where there's a
Oh,
poem.
that's what you mean. Okay, got it. Yeah. I would say it would be critical framing.
So that would be a pedagogical act, but the process itself.
Oh.
So this would be a previous. I think it's the second actually. No, maybe a third bullet point. I'll just leave them out here. So it could be meaning design. Meaning design, right?
Sure.
Which is one of these more nebulous terms that are kind of floating around in this multiliteracy soup that are could be difficult to define, but that would be a good example of it where your students, where there's the text and there's the meaning encoded in the text, and then your student bring in their own knowledge, their own available designs to create meaning. Oral communication in the multiliteracy framework is straight from the textbook on multiliteracies. Is defined, described in terms of the creation and interpretation of multiple text types from a variety of perspectives, which could be applicable to poetry illustrated by art, perhaps in role plays. Also, we are dealing with authentic oral texts that are used by students as models for their own production. In terms of role plays, this is something that should, in theory, work, but more often than not, they just repeat what they're being given. Then students also use oral language to construct and negotiate meaning in a range of contexts and through exposure to various genres. We've covered that. And it is a process that draws on students' knowledge of the language, problem-solving strategy and skills, cultural knowledge of the target language, understanding of society, interpersonal pragmatics. I bolded these terms, these selected terms, for a reason. What do we call them? You guys can recall collectively. What would these be examples of? You guys probably won't know.
Of available designs?
Yes.
What?
Available designs. So available designs, one way to, and this is for people who don't come here on a regular basis, available designs would be bits and pieces of knowledge or information that are encoded in text, whether literally or videographic or oral, that convey certain meaning. And those are also bits and pieces of information that students bring in from outside of the classroom in order to reconstruct, negotiate, and design the meaning itself. Okay, so now teaching. So when it comes to the teaching of this oral communication through texts, within the multiliteracies framework, we're going to go back to the 4 pedagogical acts, because that is what teaching multiliteracies is all about. And do we remember what those were? And if we don't remember what those were, they are handily included on your handouts. So situated practice, overt instruction, critical framing, and transformed practice. So this is one way to look at these 4 guys is from the standpoint of an instructor, what it is that we as instructors should be doing if we want to work within the multiliteracies framework. Now on the student side, these 4 pedagogical acts ideally elicit the processes of interpretation, collaboration, problem solving, and reflection. They don't come in any specific order. They can influence each other, they can overlap, and so on and so forth. Okay. I mean, so far there are no questions. This is review. So, in terms of oral communication, can you think of any activities that would draw on or exemplify these 4 pedagogical acts? So, on your handouts, you have them all laid out, and you have them defined in the context of oral communication. Okay, so what I mean by that is, for instance, for situated practice, this is how it applies to the teaching of oral communication skills. What I would like to do now is to take a couple minutes to think about actual activities that would illustrate situated practice, overt instruction, critical framing, and transformed practice. And you can work together if you'd like.
It has to be one activity that covers the 4.
It could be multiple activities. Remember, so like last week we were talking, we looked at a lesson plan. And some of these activities in the lesson plan reflected a number of these pedagogical acts, right? So you had things that combine critical framing and transformed practice, for instance. There were also activities that would exemplify only one of these pedagogical acts, so we were experiencing, for instance.
It's over the instructions.
So today we're kind of working inductively. Deductively, because we have the rules and then we're representing.
So now we have to think about the situated practice.
Situated, or any one of these.
Teaching.
Abdul?
Yeah. So, what would be good? Oh, right. Like what you said about maybe put on certain things.
Exactly. Express your feelings using these verbs of feeling, no? That's how we have language and content and feeling at the same time.
But also with this.
Exactly.
When
I am
you
using
tell them,
this.
you get the
Exactly. Yes.
convention.
Sometimes, yes. Or it can be before, in the middle, or after, but yes, there is always a component. And the culture, because it's not
Is there anything that I can do
here,
to help?
you can ask, is the
Are
same
you
in your
following? So
Yeah,
there's a couple new
No, it's
things
the
that.
same
yeah.
in your country or in
That's
the
done.
United States or in this example.
Mhm.
no?
Okay.
Okay, more. So I
Think of
don't
an
know.
So in one of these,
Exactly. Should we do this? Yeah.
So we are combining all the
okay, you can talk about one.
You know, you can if you can find an if you can find the gut shot, if you can find the one activity that rules them all,
How we say it? I have a
Go for it.
example with that.
no, but
Yeah.
usually
See, and how does
those
it-
are
how
really
does it-
hard to come up
Between
with.
doing that.
You can definitely do one per act. You can sometimes do two, maybe even three at times.
Here,
Well, it depends on
show
craft you
them
are.
what people do.
Mhm.
You know, when they approach each other, and we have to discuss what do you do in your country, how do you do it, or what people do.
Right.
So it's the rules of communication, of pragmatics,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
culture,
So what's
Absolutely.
and it's nice
And
to
how
talk.
do you,
and
how
if
do you
have
approach,
talked-
how does a woman approach a man and a woman?
As
Different.
exactly, and it changes.
That changes, right.
And it's
can do
also
with the students of
different
kind
depending on
of
person to the other.
activity
Like,
and
yeah, I don't-
experience
I don't feel-
in
I am not doing that.
Right.
Can we think
You
of
know,
what
cultural,
we're going to work
Right.
topics or.
Yeah.
No, this is good. No?
Right, right,
We have
absolutely.
examples.
And,
So with videos. In this case, active life. Okay.
we can maybe
Creativity.
think of an activity that is like
Yes.
saturated on life.
yeah, once they understand.
Something that is very important in life.
Then they could, for instance, write
Could be
an,
eating, even going to the bathroom.
between two people meet each other.
So
That
write
would
a
be
dialogue.
That would be a nice transport.
Imagine that you are
Yes.
Spanish or you are whatever
Right.
you are.
can be also a song.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. That's a good And
Words,
you could do a whole lesson
I have that.
with
I have it.
1, 2, 3, 4. See, so that's great.
This is how more or less we work. Sometimes, no, including the language forms.
Right, which is the upward instruction.
But we,
That is-
but we have put the
Within the country.
Yeah.
It doesn't create the sequence of events that we want them to do is to create
text.
And all kind of written text, a song, image, or
Right, yeah.
I have that one in the chart.
Flow
I have another
animation.
one.
Uh-huh.
It's called flowing text. The room that you're in.
Also, they have to write the
Yeah.
They do that.
chart, the statistics.
They have to continue.
I don't like the term
What
text.
would it happen? No?
More I
Video?
work
Yeah,
with
yeah,
it.
that is-
Continue. You are the
With
characters.
multiliteracies,
and-
that's
So
like
what happens next?
the
Yeah.
use of the word
That's
text.
also a really good activity.
I would
Speaking
replace it with
activity,
artifact.
And then,
But
Clothing.
You think text, you think this.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's always
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I like this.
Right, and also the kind of
I mean, it's not intuitive.
Sometimes you have to pass
I cannot do it. I have a class where I
Yeah,
can do
that
it.
happens.
That they can, that I have to
Or they're
finish,
so passive.
that I have to finish in real activity, so I need those.
Do you need more minutes, or are we pretty good?
We need
No,
them.
we're good.
We're good? Okay, so, so we have roughly 2, are you in the group with them? So we have 3 groups. Let's see what group, for group 1, or the first group, would like to propose for activities. What do you guys have?
Well, we never came up with, at
Then
least
we
I
did,
think we
we
never
just
came
have
up with,
different ideas
we
with
kept
it.
thinking, But the more I
think
think
it's fine.
about my experience on teaching, the only way I use artifacts are when I use the songs. And in those cases, because the thing here is that you're supposed to use the language, but you're not supposed to focus on form, which many of the exercises focus on form. So in the particular case of the songs, there is one part of interpreting the song that allows us to express opinions.
Okay.
And so this is a song that actually is a very male-dominating song. The song is actually very good, and it has the form that I want them to learn. But the content itself, it shows part of the cultural makeup of the Brazilian culture. And so.
So which act would that be?
Experiencing.
So situated practice.
Yes.
So pretty good example.
For example, I was thinking about painting to not interpret, but also reading the text. You don't like the words, the artifact, but what is the text inside the image? So what's happening in this moment? And so they can use. You can focus on vocabulary, or you can let them interpret what is going on in the picture. So it depends if it's more or less abstract. So if it's a very clear situation, and so you can create a story about what's going on in the.
So which one would it be then?
Applying.
Just
Transform practice?
transform practice, because the could be transcode, so it's from the image you pass to the narration of what's going on.
It's just creating a new
It's
text.
many experiencing spirit practice, because you.
It would be experiencing. I think it would be, since especially that you mentioned that you want to use it to focus on specific forms and specific lexical items. It could be analyzing as well. It could be critical framing. So here you see how you want it to be contain components of all of them. You guys, what do you have?
Okay, we can use a painting or we can use a video, and after talking about that and analyzing, and maybe we can incorporate language forms, and we can talk about the rules of communication. We can talk about the pragmatics of the video if it is happening in the new culture. We can ask them to continue the story or to create a new story. For example, in the painting, what are they saying? Can you create a story with this painting? So we are doing transform practice.
What the person is
Mhm.
thinking,
What are they saying?
what they're feeling. So it's,
If you are using videos, you can relate them more with actual the real culture.
yeah.
No, because you can discuss about what they do in the video and what you do in your own culture, and you can continue the story as if you were from a new culture. So
I have an idea. If video is a text and if the painting is a text, everything is a
everything's
text.
a text.
Or artifact. But what if you took a painting or the picture and then continued the story depicted in the painting in form of a dialogue? As a dialogue.
Mhm.
So in the painting,
Yeah.
especially
I do that.
with Renaissance Italian paintings, there's usually multiple characters in those,
Yeah,
and
that's
you can imagine they're talking about something that's come up with a dialogue, which would be an example of playing.
That's very nice.
Transform
We
practice.
So I
have
don't-
for my case, we have a piece of material, a cloth. There is a cloth that is worn on every day, but
Mhm.
it's very specific.
That would be
culturally.
text.
The text, and then every piece of material has a proverb in it. So there's a proverb which gives a philosophy of life, culture, and then of course I use it for students to give examples of what they could be applied to. And then the cloth itself is used for various occasions, funerals, weddings, and parties also. So it's an interesting piece of material. It's a text, plus it has design and so on, but the functionality of it, the practical part of it is so wide.
Do you ever juxtapose that against the pieces of clothing containing texts that are worn in the West? Like
Yeah, we
right
do.
here.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
do,
you know,
yeah.
graphic
So
tees
different-
and-
Right, yeah. But they find the difference is over here, the cultural part is not there as much as the text from there. They are more based on, let's say, proverbs that are usually used in culture.
So that would be like situated practice, right? This is where you're experiencing the differences between
Yeah.
the two. What about you guys?
We're kind of playing a little bit with an idea with songs. We didn't really focus on the whole entire thing.
Okay.
Just playing a little bit. I think we ended up looking at a sample literature. We're at an ESL class. We did a Bob Dylan song,
Mhm.
talking about the contest when the song was breeding, or social historical aspects of the song, and really how they could actually look at the sentences and
Oh, that would be
modify their own sentences.
that would be analyzing.
Yeah.
And then modifying their own sense would be applying to. Okay, so you guys are getting a hang of this, that these four different pedagogical acts, how they vary from each other, how they overlap. Good. Another handout that I gave you is a lesson plan, and that is a lesson plan that is a multiliteracies framework oriented and or situated. That is also geared towards the development of interpersonal oral communication skills. And this lesson plan is divided into 4 instructional stages. Pre-speaking, which activates background knowledge, and this is something that we should, can easily expect from pre-speaking activities, but it also establishes support for speaking task structures around textual content. It's been a while. Textual interpretation is the second point. I will cut it
I don't know
out.
if you would like to do that with the students.
You're not, no. But you're allowed to,
What might be handy language to know?
Okay, that.
Would it be
So,
over
going back.
Would it be over the
Instructional stages, activating background knowledge and then establishing support for speaking task structures around textual content. Thank you. Number 2, textual interpretation. It gathers information about the content of the lesson, exposes the details of language and use, so grammar, lexical items, culture. Knowledge application would be where we students demonstrate the understanding through interpersonal communication activities, and then summary and reflection is the sort of auto-reflexive stuff. Now, we also have different learning activities, and they're listed beneath each of the instructional stages. Do take a look at these learning activities and see if you can assign them to each of these categories. Okay, so see if you can isolate the different pedagogical acts. And we have 3 groups. There are 7 activities, so let's just have each group do 2. There's actually 7 participants, so each participant can do 1 activity. Let's do it this way. Vaney, you do 1, 2, because we have 7 participants, and there are 7 activities. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, daughter 6, and friend 7. Okay?
Okay.
So you want us to
Just look at 1 and
see what...
pedagogical acts
Right.
it reflects,
Mhm.
or what pedagogical act,
Mhm.
if there's only 1.
Jigsaw is always jigsaw puzzle. The only
It kind of is. It's a little bit different in the book that I stole this from, or adopted it from. So we don't see what we borrow, we adopt. always there are the official answers and other answers. Okay, let's get it going. What's number one?
So number one, where students just just think of their own life.
Mm-hmm.
That would be experiencing situated practice, and they just come up with words that they know, but they might not have all the vocabulary yet.
Mm-hmm. There's a clearly defined instructor role in it.
Okay.
Right, so that could also be.
Oh, so it could
overt
also be
instruction.
over the instruction, but I would think it's then a blend between both.
Yeah, well, definitely with the prevalence for situated practice.
Right,
Mhm.
yeah.
What about number two?
I think that the main is critical framing and analyzing,
Mhm.
but also 1, 2, and 4 is playing a role. For example, number 4, it means opportunities to apply understanding, knowledge, and skills. There is a moment when the teacher asks them, what is best?
Mhm.
Your culture, the new culture, these habits, your habits. So this analyzing.
So critical thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about the next one?
Number 3.
Yeah.
I think that's a situated practice
Mm-hmm.
because they're giving these family profiles, and they have to describe the food that these families do like or does not like, so they have to express their opinions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what this experience is situated practice.
Mm-hmm. Very good. There's a bit of critical thinking in it as well. Moving on to number 4.
Number 4, so it's, I think, is a situated practice experiencing because they, through communicative activities, they use formatted text or they read and they express their opinion.
Sure.
And then there is also critical framing, analyzing, because as a group of students identify ways in which the American and French families are similar and different, so they analyze so basically these two.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then we've got application. Okay. Would be the debate. Who had the debate?
I'm number 5.
Number 5.
I'm
Mhm.
the critical framing.
I'm sorry, oh, I skipped it. Okay, so, wait, hold on. I think I messed it up. So 2B should be what Abdul is doing. Mm-hmm. Because the next one is a debate, which is engage in debate about this, so number 6. Okay. Anyway, Abdul, so number 5.
This critical framing analysis.
Critical framing, why?
Because they have to figure out the similarities and differences
Mm-hmm.
of the two families,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have to explain why one is and one is not healthy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, in interest of time, I'm just gonna go to the last 2. So knowledge, so the debate is going to be critical framing again, and then summary and reflection, so the journal is going to be transformed practice. Is that what you guys said?
I had it.
Okay.
For me, number 6 is not only critical, but I think that's a transform practice as well, if that makes sense, because they also apply their understanding not only on the language, but also the whole background of the topic they're debating. So probably I use the transform practice can be a number 6 as well.
Sure. And again, I missed the point here when I was putting this together. Apologies. But that is not necessarily a problem, because I think the overall sort of conclusion here should be that there are multiple components of pedagogical acts in each of these, and depending on what it is they want to emphasize, we can do so accordingly. Now, let's move on to the technology bit. And when it comes to oral practice, I found it kind of difficult to find a specific technological platform that is suitable for facilitating oral communication skills. Because what do you do with technology apart from creating a space where your students can talk, where they communicate, right? Spaces like that are abundant. They are instinctively available. We have Skype, we have Zoom, we have Google Hangouts. We have texting. So these are all the things that the platforms that come to my mind when I'm thinking about oral communication skills. What they all have in common is that they are synchronous. So what I was trying to find, and I think I somewhat succeeded, is a platform that is, of course, easy to use, free, but also asynchronous, where your students could have informed exchanges, oral exchanges, where they can practice the oral conversation communication skills, where they can also do so in an environment that is asynchronous, where this asynchronicity provides certain advantages. And the platform that I found is Voxer, which is not really made for language learning, but I think there is some utility to it, or at least right, exactly. But at least to knowing of it. And if you guys, this works on phones, but it also works on.
It's
PC.
like a message text. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
So I like it when you use the.
Well, let's
voice,
take a look at it. So I'm going to go here. If you're using it on your computers, use Google Chrome. It's not going to work in Safari. It will work in Firefox now.
You will on Firefox?
It will, yeah. If you're using Firefox, if you have a new version of Firefox, it will work. So let's walk through this together. This is where you should be.
Voxer.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
Official site?
Well, you're going to have to download it first. Or actually, no, let's see. You can log in here. Use your microphone. You want to allow it to use microphone.
You have to put the.
You need to register an account first.
So here I'm requested to have the mobile number.
So we have to
Click here
download it?
to
No.
sign in.
Okay, let's take a step back. I'm gonna move it. So from here, we're gonna have to click on 4 individuals since we're not in business. And I don't know if I have to download it. Yes, I think you have to download it.
So you have to put your number for number.
You do need to put a phone number, and that is simply because in case you also want to use it on your phone, that way it syncs. So I'm going to put in...
So the student are gonna call you.
No, they won't. Name, slang, password, let's do...
It asks for my card number.
I will get there in a second. Don't give it any money.
Skip maybe later.
Yes. So you don't want to receive anything from them. You create an account. And then there's a skip maybe later part. Do you see it? So you don't want to give them any cards. You can enter whatever username you want. I'm just gonna do.
So no card, you just want to start watching the future?
Look below.
No,
There should be
below.
a skip button. Or not now. Mm-hmm. Are you at the username?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
Can I
just
change it?
enter.
Can I change it?
Yeah.
Connect with your friends.
As we are going through it, did you register with your Columbia unions?
Yes.
Yes.
All of you?
Okay.
Okay, that is going to be important. So I'm gonna set the username, and I'm gonna skip this, and I will skip that too. And then invite people that you want to talk to. So I'm gonna invite you guys. You were WED 23.
Oh, I didn't download, so I'm just looking right now.
That's fine.
Skip me.
JC846.
Yeah, skip me too, I'm just
GC8
looking.
or 6, that's fine, you just need a couple. GC8 or 6. Lily?
DB 3140.
40. Anyone else want to experiment?
I put another address. It's my name, Alessandra dot SAGGIN gmail.com.
FM.
Hey, did you want to participate? Or?
Oh no, I didn't.
Okay, if you don't understand, it's fine. So,
I have an email,
okay, and where?
RDP
RDP
2132.
2132. Okay. So those are invited. Okay, without first snack. Welcome to the box. Okay, so it's available on an Apple Store and Google. You can download an app.
We need to verify our email.
If you should be able to use it from the browser without email
Oh.
verification, by the way. So now I see all of you, but you don't see me. So what I could do is simply text people, but this is what we can do with just regular text messages. What's really cool about it is this guy right here, where if I hold it and if I talk, it automatically records. If I hold it and if I talk, it automatically records. And
Cool.
at this point, you should be able to also receive it
And where?
through the app.
Through the app.
So you need to be logged in.
Okay.
Jose Antonio, are you logged in?
I have assigned from Zuberek here, but it doesn't
That's
do
right, I'm
anything.
sending you super.
Okay, perfect. And you won't see this because this was just to Dolores. But
Oh,
anyway,
yeah, I
Yeah,
see
yeah.
it. Hi.
so this is my message to Jose Antonio.
And you got the
It automatically records.
Pretty cool.
can you try with me?
So this is my message to Jose Antonio.
Do you know WhatsApp?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same.
It's the
right?
same. It's the same.
Does it also have the walkie function?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
WhatsApp
All
is-
the time.
WhatsApp has
It's weird
a-
because WhatsApp is not very
This
known
one.
in the United States.
yeah.
In
I
Italy,
know.
in Europe,
No, you mean talking to people?
so you
Oh,
can do like
yeah.
this.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No,
WhatsApp
it's
is
just
the
with
phone
the
is
call,
like
but-
All the time.
I use it a lot with
My mother,
friends in
even my
Italy.
No, but what do you mean?
Okay, that's great. That's
I
fine.
think it's a- you can-
Oh, you do that? Oh,
Well, I mean, I think WhatsApp is
no, no,
And
has
Telegram
somebody-
as well.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, great. So we know that WhatsApp has a similar functionality. One, so okay, so it records. Perfect. Now what this
So that's
of course, is
Telegram.
yet another platform. What was that?
Telegram.
So this is yet another platform for this kind of asynchronous communication. What's the challenge might be here that not everyone uses WhatsApp.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially here.
Right.
In the United States, I don't know why.
And
But
they
it
don't
is not
have to
that difficult
download.
to download it.
So if you want to rely on WhatsApp, That's instead of in lieu of this, that's fine. I think what this guy offers is a space that is disassociated from your personal communication,
True.
where
That's better.
you can access through your Columbia email, what kind of
Right.
Columbia things to say or course things.
Gets
will
messy.
So it's
be
not
made.
doesn't matter with the personal things, but that's important.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's
And so these two things are these two worlds are staying apart. I mean, you can always use WhatsApp, but then people might be reluctant because with WhatsApp you do need a phone number, whereas
Yes.
this is anonymous.
That's
Or
better.
anonymous in terms of you only see the name of the user, you don't
Yes.
see the user's phone number. Now,
No,
this
yes,
works in a
better.
similar way on your phone. So it's also very useful. Plus, what you can do with it, which I don't think you can do that with WhatsApp, is you can download these conversations as a file.
Oh,
If
that's
you-
nice.
If you have a
Yeah.
Dropbox account, it's already integrated with the Dropbox. So you can put it directly, all these little bits and pieces of audio feedback, you can put it directly into your Dropbox. There are a few more things that you can do with it. You can add attachments, which you can't do with WhatsApp. With attachments, you can upload files from your computer, from Dropbox if you have it, or from Google Drive, which we all do
Yeah.
through Columbia.
Can you send me the message because I want to see
Sure.
how it works.
So this is a message for Alessandra.
So I have a notification.
Just skip. Go back and then skip this step. And skip.
Okay.
And then close the box. And you should. And you have a message from me. And this already allows you the opportunity to put together groups and to have this space where there is a record of your students' oral participation. Now, I think, again, there's a lot of competition. There are a number of platforms that offer pretty similar functionalities. I decided to use Voxer because I just discovered it last week, and I think it is super easy to use.
True.
Because of they were offering 14-day free trial.
But that is for the expanded version.
Yeah.
You can this is the free version that you can use. It does have certain limitations.
Like maybe number of participants.
Yeah, like number of participants and things like
So
that.
that
And
would,
maybe
that
the-
would be a problem.
And
if
the let's see here. So for free, you have limited message storage, which I
Right.
really don't know how. But then again, you can download the messages too.
Yeah,
if
that's
it's something
true.
that you need for assessment or for record. Message recalling, broadcast chats, walkie-talkie mode, extreme notification. I don't even know what these things are,
Right,
to be honest.
you
The
don't
only
know
difference that is meaningful to me is the message storage.
Right.
But even with that,
And how many people?
I
Oh,
don't
large
know.
group chats.
yeah, you can.
Yeah, so, okay.
But with this, you also like. How many people are you gonna have in your class? 10?
More than 15. Well,
Well, it depends on the language,
16,
right?
Yeah,
16 is the
17.
cap.
15 is a cap, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the gap?
15.
15.
16.
Really? I thought it was 18.
Well, you will never have
So
500
we-
people in your
we
class.
No.
We reduce a little bit, but we can usually, sometimes it happens maybe up to 17, 18.
Right.
But we prefer to have.
Sure.
So what I wanted to do, and we're running out of time, of course. What I wanted to do is to see how the activities that are listed on the lesson plan that is on the hand that I printed out. Oh, somebody.
I
sent me
delivered the,
something. Yep.
just to see how it works.
So yeah, you can send a text message.
The
You can
Gmail.
Oh,
add
that's how you see it
attachments.
then, yeah.
And then you can also add chats where you can invite groups. So as an instructor, if you want your students to work in groups, you can collect them. Of course, at first you need to invite them to your account so that they're visible here on the side. But then for group work, if you want them to practice oral skills, you can just have them.
But they'll have to sign up
walkie-talkie.
too, right?
They're going to have to sign up as
Yeah.
well, which takes like 2 minutes.
Right.
And again, this works from the browser. I don't.
should we ask them to sign on the phone or?
On the phone, they will need an app, but the process is the same.
I'm thinking
On the phone, they don't need one?
And on the phone, they will need an app. as in they won't be able to open up the browser on their
Mhm.
phone and do this from the Google Chrome or Firefox version on their mobile. They will have to download a separate app for it.
And that's probably what they would want to do, because they do everything with their phone.
So
Yeah.
can we embed it in the course or in Canvas?
That's the thing, you cannot.
No.
Let's see here. So there's a share
Share,
button
there's a
here.
sharing.
So you can share, you can share a message. Let's see how this works. Well, there's a link, I guess, because you can just send a link
Link, okay.
to it. You can download the actual file with this button right here, but there is no iframe embedding capability in this. So yeah, back to the lesson plan. What I wanted to do is to look at these exercises here and see if we can use Boxer to leverage to sort of facilitate some of these, or maybe to rework them so that they're even more suitable for oral communication practice. But with the handouts and with the knowledge and then everything we discussed so far, I think this is something that you can do on your own, and I will of course stay for a few minutes after to talk to you if you need to. That would be that. For the next meeting, it will be not on Thursday, it will be on Friday at 4:05 p.m. in IAB 255. Loli and Francisco and I as well will be doing a workshop on smartboards. If you teach in a smartboard classroom, which is not always a smart classroom, this is something. If you can make it. If not, that's okay too. There won't be a regular Thursday workshop. Then the next Thursday workshop will be on April 18th at 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. here in CLS. I don't know what it's going to be. I mean, I do know the topic, but I can't tell you more about the platform because I need to still look into a couple things. And this would be all that I have for
Thank
today.
you so much.
You're very
Thank you.
welcome. I will be around if you need me to.